You're listening to World of Empowerment Radio, your station for practical spirituality in a changing world. And here are your hosts, Aingeal Rose and Ahonu.
Hi, you are very welcome. I am Ahonu, and this is my lovely Aingeal Rose. Today, Aingeal Rose wants to spend a little time delving deep into the death paradigm. And it's been coming up for us quite a lot over the last number of years. But with the accelerated pace of change that we're all experiencing in the world, it's something that needs to be dealt with. And Aingeal Rose is going to go into some detail with it today. If you don't mind me referring to some notes that she made a little while ago, it's important for us to start dealing with a number of these in the order in which she took the notes. So let's first ask about the death paradigm in general, Aingeal Rose.
Right. Well, the reason I wanted to talk to everybody today is because we are in this accelerated period of change right now in our world, and we are in the releasing of an old paradigm. And that old paradigm, I personally call it the death paradigm, because it's really everything that has to do with the ego's world. Ego's world being one of judgment, blame, and feeling like we're not good enough, and placing guilt on other people. It has to do with our selfish desires and that we want things as opposed to love. So it's basically everything that causes death. And I'm referring to this as it really is a state of consciousness, Ahonu. The death paradigm is a way we all think and the way we've been believing for centuries and years. And we're in a purification process now. It started in 2019. A source told me it has begun. This is real. This is not a drill. In other words, we're actually in it. And what does the purification of yourself really mean? And I want to talk about this because a lot of people still think it's just about switching from, going to work in a physical office to working online.
Just hold on a moment, Aingeal Rose. Do excuse us because we're close to a small airport here and these planes continue to fly over. So just give us a moment.
As lovely as it is at times.
Oh yeah, it's quite interesting actually to see the different types of planes, like a small airport. And also we see from time to time planes, firefighting planes that come in, because fires are at an all-time high, especially where we are in California right now, but also all over the United States and perhaps further afield too, fires in areas that we don't even hear about. But sorry for that little distraction. Let's carry on, Aingeal Rose. You were speaking about the death paradigm in general. And my own thought about it is that we see death ourselves as a kind of a justification or a reward or an escape or a punishment. Yeah, it's all of those kinds of things, but they're all misguided. That's what you're saying.
Yeah, but we're not necessarily talking about physical death today, although it includes it.
Right.
Okay, it's a state of mind, really, that we're talking about that has to leave. State of consciousness, because what we're really working towards, or what Source is asking us to work towards, is to be merging with the magnificence of God's love. And none of us really know what that is.
Right.
But that does require emptying out of everything that's not that.
Yes.
Okay.
And so your next point here is about clearing the death paradigm. I mean, obviously, there is a way to clear this way of thinking.
Clearing it really is, first of all, there needs to be a willingness to let go, first of all. Let go of our old beliefs, let go of our old ways of thinking and doing. Be willing to find out what God's love really means. And it really does involve clearing our own bodies and our own mind, because all these beliefs and memories of lifetimes, not just this one, but of all of our lifetimes, are stored in the cells of our body. And they're stored in our subconscious mind, which makes our physical body. So, we have things in our bones, we have things in our tissues and our muscles, and a lot of this is what causes illness for people of all types. It's really past memories that have not been forgiven, not been released, are still stuck in there. I remember, just a small point, I remember one time I had a surgery in my womb area, and years later I was doing a meditation and doing a little self-work, and the odor of the anesthesia came out of my body. I mean, and that was like 20 years later. And I just was shocked to say, wow, look at how long that's been in there. But that stuff stored in there creates these little pockets of what eventually turn into illness. So we're in a purification process, and that really means it literally. Purify means let go, release, allow yourself to be new, allow yourself to be brand new without knowing what that's going to mean.
Mm-hmm. And we are going to touch on some of the ways and techniques and mechanisms to release that and to let that go. But until we get to that, let's just deal with what is becoming known as Ascension. And we're not talking about like the typical Jesus Ascension per se. We need to delve a little bit into this so that we understand what Ascension is. And Aingeal Rose has a note here about the whitening effect.
Right. So Ascension, in my mind and in my experience, is really about this purification that I'm talking to. It's allowing yourself to be operating at a higher state of consciousness, a higher mind, and I call it a whitening effect because it brought me back to my book, Love, Miracles, and Original Creation. There's a chapter in there on miracles, and when we were in the Akashic Records and we had asked Source to define miracles, it had said that it was a whitening effect on the body. And it showed me a picture as if somebody just erased everything that had to do with whatever condition was going on and just made it completely white. And that's really what it's asking for in terms of what clearing actually means now. It's whitening yourself, making yourself completely pure, completely free of all old stuff is really what it's asking for. And that does move you to your higher mind. If you don't have all these judgments and memories and unforgiven things and this and that's gone on for years, belief systems that authorities have programmed you to believe. If you didn't have any of that, you'd be more in tune with your own higher self, your own higher mind. You'd have genius thoughts instead of depressed thoughts. You wouldn't feel inadequate. You'd know you were loved. And you'd be in the field of abundance also, which is really what God's love is all about.
And when you say whitening, is that anything to do with forgiveness? Like, would forgiveness help with this whitening?
It is part of the process. Forgiveness does erase. And I think that's the proper use of forgiveness, is that we're not looking at somebody and saying, well, you did this to me, but I'll forgive you now, or I'm going to hold it in my subconscious forever. True forgiveness really means erasing. And that you just literally, it's gone from your memories, it's gone from holding on to any grievance about it still. And yes, when you do that, you're canceling out the old paradigm and you're allowing yourself to be in God's love.
Great. And you did, a little while ago, you did a DNA meditation. And before you go into the detail of that DNA meditation, how is the DNA connected to forgiveness?
Well, the DNA comes about from your history. I mean, the DNA really is, you wouldn't have a DNA if you didn't have a history. So DNA is what makes you, what makes your genetics,
based on your past.
Based on the past, based on your parents' past, based on your ancestry. That all forms your particular DNA. So why I created the DNA meditation, which is at the end of a talk I did on maneuvering through the death paradigm.
Right, yeah.
And Ahonu will put a link to that video below because it has the DNA meditation at the end of it. But really it's a meditation where you go in and you take a look at your DNA and you look for where the death paradigm is the most prominent in your DNA. It will show up as little dark spots, perhaps, or you'll start to have some memories of some lives, perhaps. And then what you do is you, just like on a computer in your mind, you press a delete button and you replace it with God's love. You just put a new program in there that says God's love. You don't have to envision it. You don't have to know what it looks like. You just put it in there.
Mm-hmm.
And what you're doing is you're resetting a program for yourself, that you're willing to surrender yourself to God's love, which is really the highest state of consciousness that you can achieve.
Just hold for a
And
moment.
here we
now.
have another little lovely plane surfacing.
Little private helicopter. Let me just pop in real quick to say that DNA meditation, we put a little caution with it to say, be careful, because that DNA meditation is very powerful, and people have reported really serious changes, I mean beneficial changes. So be prepared for the strength of that DNA meditation and the changes it'll make in your life.
Yeah, because it will start to bring, could bring up old memories in you over the days following. It could bring up things that you were hanging on to that you didn't know you were, and that you just really just decide to release and let go of. It doesn't need any analysis. It just needs you to let go and replace it with an intention to be in God's love.
Now, another thing, another mechanism, let's call it, or a methodology or a technique that we've come upon of late is voice code analysis. And those of you who have been in our circle or on our mailing list or on our social media pages will have heard us talk about this recently. And we've had a lot of feedback now at this point from people who are also reporting great benefits from it, and bringing up old stuff, releasing the past, forgiveness, all of that, and feel closer to God's love effectively from it. But for those of you who are new to this and haven't heard about voice code analysis, Aingeal Rose, can you give us a little bit of background about where it came from and what it does?
Well, voice analysis is a software program that was developed by Robert Loy and Helena Riley. Basically, it's a scalar wave technology. It's called quantum sound healing. I'm sorry. I'm getting off track because I just really want to talk about what it does. Okay, but anyway, in this whole process of clearing, and there's many ways to clear, like Ahonu said, you can journal, you can forgive. Course in Miracles is a great book for forgiveness. You can meditate, you can do all sorts of things. But we came upon this ourselves, and we decided to try it because in talking about purification, it does involve purification of the body, okay? And that's usually, we can go back to religion where they talk about 7 vices and 7 virtues. And basically they're talking about the chakra system, and right now how the chakras can contain vices and virtues. And everybody has the vices in there, because we'd all be having our kundalini activated and in an ascension mind if that were not the case. So it really does need biological purification. And the voice analysis is software that they've developed over 40 years, that they found that in your voice holds your subconscious mind. So by the sound of your voice, by the tone of your voice, it contains all the elements of your subconscious. So what the software does when you have a session is you speak into a microphone, and the software analyzes over 1 billion bits of information in your voice. And then what it does is it creates a sound frequency program that you listen to that cancels out the most damaging things that are coming up in your voice, the things that are distracting you, that have you off balance.
And they go into the physical as well as the emotional.
Well, they go into the physical because this goes into your bones. Because sound frequency, as opposed to light, sound is the element that affects physical matter. Sound destroys matter and it builds up matter. So by developing sound frequencies, it does a canceling out, or like I say, a whitening effect on the issues that are showing up. And why I wanted to talk about this today is because this is a process. There is no like masterful, magical, quick fix to undoing the content of your own subconscious, of releasing the stuff that's been in your body for years, and even past life things that have come through, and not only that, ancestral stuff that's come through from your family that manifest as your genetic code. Okay, so like for my own family, on my mother's side in particular, there's a history of depression, there's a history of poverty, unhappiness and sorrow, and certainly it has made its own thread through my life. And even though I've journaled about this and I've made progress, I have made progress with it, I still have not achieved the level of joy or happiness that I'd like to feel every day, just because. So when I got this, we figured we'd try it out, and we've had about 5 voice sessions ourselves now, and each time it spits out notes, dominant notes and minor notes that are off balance in you, and each time those notes change. Sometimes they don't change, but by listening to the new program twice a day with headphones, you start to change. And both Ahonu and I have had effects. Like the first time I listened to my voice analysis, I just had flashes of past life memories, past lives that I never knew were there. And I've remembered a lot of them. And every single one of those past lives was negative. I mean, it was like, oh my God. And I remember after I listened to it, I thought, wow, how much shit, for lack of a better word, do I have in here? And am I ever going to clear this? But so I was surprised, with my 40 plus years in spiritual work, doing psychic surgeries and all sorts of things. I was surprised that these things were still in there, deeply in there as memories. And then, I'd have periods of joy where I could see holes being poked in all of those memories and light coming in. And then I would dip down into some sorrow. So that's why I'm telling you, this voice analysis is very, very deep. And it's a mixture of elation and dipping down into sorrow again, or whatever low level you might be at still. And you can be discouraged by that, but if you just keep listening, you don't have to analyze the results. You don't have to do anything like that. You just have to keep listening and let it cancel out these frequencies.
Yes, that was one of the key things that I found encouraging about this, because if you were to go like mainstream psychology or psychotherapy, you're constantly dealing with stuff, and you're mentalizing it and analyzing it and all of that. None of that. All you do is you listen, and when stuff comes up, you basically just let it go. Now you can mentally forgive it if you want, but it's not necessary. It just comes up and it's gone. And that's a wonderful, wonderful thing.
And it's helpful to say affirmations while you're listening, or hum to the sounds when you hear them. So, you imagine you've got these headphones on and you're just listening to these frequencies, and in your mind you're saying different affirmations of how you would like your life to be, or what you'd like to let go of. Well, because these frequencies are canceling out the old, they're also building up the new. So it's very beneficial to do that. Mm-hmm. And I'm talking about this again today because Ahonu and I have offered sessions, and we offered individual sessions if you'd like to just do a one-time thing. When you pay for an individual, you get 2 sessions a month. And if you don't want to go any further, you don't go any further. But we've also creating a yearly program. And the yearly program offers you 2 voice code sessions each month, plus a 30-minute Akashic reading with me at the second week to take a look at how you're changing, take a look at what's going on, and discuss anything you may have gone through that you'd like to talk about or you're confused about. This is one of the fastest ways we know to accelerate this purification process we're all in, because we really want to get to a consciousness, and I'm making a point to say this is a consciousness issue. Everything is consciousness. Your memories are consciousness, sickness is consciousness, everything. We really want to get to a point where you feel that you're well enough to merge with God's love, or have more glimpses of it and be in that state of mind. Because we are, as everybody knows, we are creating a new world for ourselves, and the old world is dying. It's another reason I call it the death paradigm, and death is included in that, the idea of having to die. And so I lost my train of thought.
Well, let me just. We're talking about consciousness and
Consciousness
and the physical effects on the body and illness and all of that.
Yeah.
And in the light of the last year and a half now with coronavirus, for example, it's evident that the amount of fear the world went through in that short space of time. I mean, whether you're pro or anti-vax doesn't matter. The fact is that it's easy to witness the level of fear that's in people about death. And that's the primary and important point about it all. So what these frequencies...
I think it's sickness in general.
Yes, no, what I'm getting around to saying is that the frequencies can bring up that fear, release it, and thereby help with being immune to the fear of death in the first place. Now, it does other things also. It takes things out of the bones, out of the cells, out of the blood, out of in a conscious way. And
well, for you, Ahonu had a lot of anger come up listening
Yes.
to these tones that he did not know he had.
Yeah.
That was deeply in his subconscious. But it's like when it comes up, you recognize it and you go, oh yeah, I recognize that.
Yeah.
Okay, so like I say, it is a purification. It's not all roses and daisies.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to be of the mindset where you understand what's going on now in this world.
Yeah.
And what the clearing we're being asked to do so that we can move into a new world. And this new world, because I had asked Source about this, the new world isn't about, oh great, now I can just manifest all these new ego desires that I have and focus on me. It really is about moving into the magnificence of God's love. And in God's love, there is abundance naturally. There's flow naturally. There's kindness. There's giving. There's synchronicities. We don't have to work at manifesting anything. But where your frequency has to match where you want to be. So that's why the result of purifying yourself and letting go of this old stuff just naturally results in a greater sense of happiness and bliss. And that's the new world that we're really being asked to create. It's not about destroying the physical universe. It's about having it be a consciousness universe of love, gratitude, appreciation, and joy. And that's not easy for a lot of people to accept, even because we're so used to having to earn everything in this world, struggling, having authority figures tell us what to do. We witness sickness, we witness death, and struggle all the time.
And there's a motivation to propagate that type of thing. I mean, we see it in the pharmaceutical industry, the healthcare industry. You know, keeping people sick is beneficial from a financial perspective, let's say. And without going into the detail of that, I know our listeners will understand the motivation behind that. But we're going beyond it. We're going beyond it.
Well, even the whole consciousness of money these days and greed. I mean, obviously a lot of it's being exposed, the absolute depth of the corruption of, cutting people off who are true healers, silencing people who have healing methods that are not based on allopathic medicine. I mean, we could go on. This isn't really the point of this, but you can see it everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
You can see the ego domination everywhere. It's all about greed, myself, what do I want, what are my desires, what are my needs. And it's definitely not about love and kindness in a lot of cases.
Yeah. And when you said feeling the magnificence of God's love,
Right.
like even when you say those words, I'm not sure that there's many people who can say that they really feel the magnificence of God's love. Now, don't get me wrong, there are, of course, people, but in general...
Well, because it's total happiness.
Yeah.
Because if you really were in the magnificence of God's love and you knew you were that as well.
Yes.
You are that love.
Yeah.
And if you had cleared everything that's not that,
Yeah.
then you would be happy and joyful all the time. You wouldn't have to say, well, this will make me happy, or that will make me happy. You would just be happy.
Yeah.
You'd be in a state of bliss. You'd be looking at everything differently.
Yeah.
And I've had moments of that. I can't say that I'm that way consistently, but I've had moments of that where, you know, you look out the car window, for example, and everything you see is bliss. The trees are bliss. The road is bliss. Dirt is bliss. Everything
Grandchildren, for example.
Everything is bliss.
Yeah.
And we'd be in that state continually. And in that state, you're well. You're well and you're happy, and you just naturally are loving and giving. And that's our natural state.
Yeah. So this is what we're talking about, is using tools and techniques and mechanisms that will help accelerate that. And that's what we're offering. So Aingeal Rose wants to mention first about her book, Love, Miracles and Original Creation.
Yes, we're going to give you a link to download that book for free as an ebook. It's my latest book, and in that is the chapter on miracles and what it means. And it goes into a lot more aspects of ourselves. It goes into the Kundalini, understanding Kundalini. It's just a gift for your own information that's come from the Akashic Records and Source's definition of these things. So we're going to offer you that. I've also got a link below on a talk about the voice code, what it is, how it works, and don't forget there's a video there also about my talk that I did at a summit on the paradigm split, which we're in now. The DNA meditation is at the end of that for you to listen to. And also I just want to briefly talk to on another subject about another tool that comes along with this voice code analysis software, and that is called the Miracle Eye Cube, and it comes from the same group of people, Quantum Sound Healing, and it's a scalar wave device, and we have this also. That's a cylinder that has Tesla coils inside of it, and it has about 20 different frequencies of all sorts of different things to cover different things, anything from wellness to telomeres to COVID protection. What else does it have in there? It's got divine bliss in there. It's got focus and concentration.
Delta waves.
Lucid dreaming. Delta waves, which we use every night, and we have the best sleeps.
Yeah.
And everybody knows that you have to be at the level of delta to have healing occur in your body. That's another option, and if you're interested in looking at that, you can click on the link below, aingealrose.com /
voice.
I don't know if that's the link to the, okay.
/ voice, yeah.
Anyway, you just click on the products and you scroll down to Miracle Eye Cube, and you can see about that. But why I'm mentioning that is because, you know, with the voice code that we listen to every day, I'm diabetic. I have been diabetic for about 40 years. I've never been able to completely have a normal blood sugar. And in the past month, my blood sugar has been normal. And when I say normal, I mean sometimes it's 94, sometimes it's 120. But for me, that's normal. You know, it used to be well over 200 every day. That was my normal. And since I've been listening to these frequencies, it's normal. My blood pressure dropped down to normal. I feel stronger in general. My voice is stronger. I have more energy every day. I can stay up longer. I won't say everything's been resolved because I still have some other issues, but I can see the difference. And that's pretty remarkable when you consider that for 30 or 40 years, I've not been able to get this into balance. So anyway, there might be a few other links below. I don't know. Check them out. But I wanted you to hear this because this is such an important time for purification, and we want to give you the best tools we know and really get across how deep the purification has to go in us. Our whole biology is really based on a death paradigm. So our core self is different. Our core self is love. It's spiritual. It's got a consciousness of happiness and joy. And if we're not experiencing that, we're not in the right place. Thank you for listening.
Okay, that brings us to the end. We thank you indeed for listening to myself, Ahonu, and Aingeal Rose. And if anybody has any questions, please feel free to contact us we're happy to share everything and anything that we have with you to help in this process. And you'll get hold of Aingeal Rose for Akashic Record readings or for that voice code at aingealrose.com. That's AINGEALROSE.com. Or you'll find us at aingealroseahonu.com. So we look forward to hearing from you with blessings and thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
You have been listening to Aingeal Rose and Ahonu on World of Empowerment Radio, your station for practical spirituality in a changing world.